Hello, people. Guess what? It's my birthday. It's my birthday. It's my birthday. Okay. This is No Good Do Gooder with the N-O and the K-N-O. It is my actual birthday. And got some 999s going on. Got some 10s going on. You know, those some good old signs about some good old stuff. Type thing. I am a goddess, a priestess, hierophant, whatever God want me to be. Dark angel, light angel, death, rebirth, beginning, whatever he want. You know, I'm a willing participant, a willing vessel. Like that. That's me. Like I did my hair to mess up my hair when I got in the shower. But it's alright. I wanted to talk about something that I had a few doctors tell me years back. A lot of things I don't necessarily know how to have a pre-written flow to, because you know how you go on some people's channels, you know, they know what they're going to discuss. They know what words they're going to say, unless they pull in some cards or something like that, or they just have it mapped out, okay? Some sort of routine. And I don't have that. It's not that I'm seeking towards that or whatever. It's just when spirit hits me to talk about something, I just do that. You know, because at the time it's needed. Somewhere in the world it's needed. Okay? What I want to say is, when someone tells you something about yourself and it seems unusual, it seems more on a supernatural level, and they are some type of professional, that's something that needs to stay in your brain. Whenever you have any kind of doubt about you, whatever that's so unique or profound about you, let it stay on your brain, okay? And I've had different things that made me unique to different people for different reasons, okay? But this 1, 2, 3, 10, 20 with this doctor has always stuck out with me, on my mind, all the time. And if I was able to give his name, I would. But I think he one of them doctors where you got to have some clearance to do that. But anywho, he's a fertility doctor. But he also specializes in fibroids, okay? I had fibroids really bad. To the point it was like I had a 5-pound baby in my belly, okay? And I remember during that time, he said I had like 2 the size of grapefruits. I had some oranges, okay, golf balls, to some raisins. You know, it was like the big trail followed by the small trail, okay? And when people say something about my stomach, and it looks like I'm pregnant, I'm not, okay? It's my, all of my intestines are together, okay? So, and they're pushed up right? They're not down in the place where they should be. And I'm going to explain to you what happened several times, all right? So, from that first go round of fibroids, I've had fibroids off and on since I think about 2004. But then they didn't know what it was because it's 44 different types of anemia. And at that time I had like 8. Okay? And they were wrapped around like my organs type thing. Alright? I've had different surgeries, but they would grow back. Alright? I removed one of my tubes because that's where they had found a home at. It was like they'll grow and then go in there. And so when they did a surgery on me to remove like all those out, I think it was like 12 or 15 of them jokers, but it's different sizes were the ones I talked about. All right. I had to have that surgery several times. 2005 all the way through to like 2000, I want to say 18 or 19. Several times. Like, I might have gaps of 3 to 5 years in between where I had good moments during that span. Where I wasn't consistently in the hospital, but that would hit, and I would know because I would have like, I guess how can I put it? The blood transfusions would happen more often, or not more often. It's just like everything will be in some form of a dire state. All right, I was always in a dire state. Damn, so I got 2 good ass stories. So one's about my fibroids with a doctor. The other is about when I drove myself to the freaking hospital. And, yeah. Okay, so first, I had this stomach surgery where they put these separator walls in between my organs. All right? It's designed for my organs not to be pushed together. It's designed for them to stay in the place where they are and function the way they're supposed to, no matter what, no matter how many times, no matter how many ways. It kept going back together with these separator walls in between. Okay? And I remember the doctor saying to me one time, because at this point they had did the surgery twice. Okay? But he was so detailed after the surgery. And if this grosses somebody out, I'm sorry. Literally, this is what he said. He was like, we took your organs out, all of them, and we laid them on a table versus blowing the gas through there to move them out the way. He said, and then, they carefully place them back in the proper spots. I know one time, I think it was about 12 or 16 hours or something. It was a long surgery. And I don't know if that was the same surgery or a different one, but he was like adamant, like, man, from your intestines, it's like every little thing, we set it aside, and we extracting out these fibroids carefully. And so it doesn't like obstruct my bowels, because a lot of things were close within my bowels and my bladder and my organs. It was like they all huddled together, band together on some shit that my doctor did not know, did not understand, and witnessed with his own eyes. Okay? And so every time they would check the x-ray, or you know how they can see if things are healing properly. So sometimes they would think, nah, it's not healing properly. Like, we're running into the same problem. Okay? Yet, everything was functioning better than they could ever imagine. All right? And so, the third time they did it, well, they were doing something like getting the fibroids out, and they were going to do the separator walls. And he told me afterwards, he said, you know, we decided not to do that again. It would have been like the third time. And I was about to get kind of upset, you know. My bad. It's just me in here. I'm holding this. But I was going to get kind of upset. So I'm like, dang, ain't that, you know, when you set some shit up, you're supposed to get that. But he explained to me why. You know, he said, your body has its own, like, regimen. It has its own way of healing itself. And no matter what we do to kind of mess with that process, it doesn't work. So whatever you're doing, you need to keep doing it. And I'm looking kind of like a deer in the headlights. Oh, right. Whatever I'm doing, I'm going to keep doing it, you know. And he could tell I'm clueless as a motherfucker, because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, you know. Because only thing I could think of was like, you know, when I was on my juice craze, or when I was working out, or when I would flush out my blood, clean out my kidneys or something, like doing just regular detoxes and just shit like that, you know. So he said, no. He said, how did you used to eat when you were growing up? And first I was kind of like, huh, what you mean? He said, you know, like, you and your parents, what was y'all established routine? What did y'all do? And I'm like, okay, well, my mom is the soup, sandwich, salad lady, and only baking. Like, not necessarily she would like bake her baked chicken or something like that, or it was on the grill. She didn't do anything fried, okay? And she didn't allow us to do soda, except for when we went out to eat. We really would have like juice, water, and like Kool-Aid, okay? We didn't do any fried foods until we went to our grandma's house on the weekend, whether it was every other weekend or every weekend. And my grandma might ask us what we want. And so we might say something like some fried chicken. But instead of my grandma going out to get the fried chicken, she would cook the fried chicken. Okay? And he's like, all right, now we're getting somewhere. And I'm like, really? Are we really? You know? But my father would do the other cooking, like the anything that needed to be done in the kitchen that required some of them cast iron pans, you know what I'm saying? You know, whether it's just anything you can think about. We had our favorite meals and things. One of ours was like hamburgers and gravy with some mashed potatoes and gravy and some peas. Like that was like, ooh, we was down for that. We would only go out to eat once a week, and we would only go to these two places. Not only, but that were the two that everyone agreed on. And there's a fish place called Hawks. It's not there anymore. And then there's a Chinese place, which I can't remember the name, but at that time, man, some shrimp egg foo young, that was the shit. We had dinner at certain times. Both of my parents were very healthy. My mom would walk all the time, even though she had a car. You know, she put all the other women to shame. They didn't want to walk with her no more. And she stayed a tiny lady. Like, she's 4'11" like me, but she was size 2 to a size 4 for a long time. And then she only got up to maybe a 10, 12 for a few years. And even now, she's already like a, 6, you know? And so, my brother a skinny kind of guy. My dad's a skinny dude. And so, when I was getting some weight on me, it was perplexing. But when I get weight on me, it's something that was wrong. And so that was an indication, okay, for me. But anywho, we would have cookouts all the time. You know, it's just telling like a house full of love. Bring people over all the time. And he said, what about your grandparents? I said, oh, my grandparents is a bit different. I said, my granddaddy had a garden. Damn, he hunted for everything. He used to even hunt for our turkeys for Thanksgiving. And the vegetables and things came out of his garden. The fish came out of the sea. Like, he'd go and catch shitload of it. You know, I used to tell people, whatever you wanted to eat, like, if he was able to kill it, I would skin it. I was so naive then. But I would skin it, and I would see my granddad tack that skin on the tree, and people would come from everywhere to get whatever he was making. And we would have big-ass fucking cookouts all the time. We had the fried fish, the fried chicken, the Brunswick stew, all the fixing, the homemade biscuits and things. And it's like, yo, a lot of that shit just my grandma and my grandpa would fix. And my uncles and aunts would pitch in, and they would do too. And we the kids, we would help. But it's like, all that was them. And people came from all the neighborhoods around. My uncles and aunts, that was about 8 of them. And then all of them most of them had kids. 2 to 4 kids, some 5 or whatever. I can't keep with all the damn kids. But, you know, they come. Wife, ex-wife, girlfriend. You know, my grandma be inviting her damn body. Church. You know. Neighbors taking plates. Everything. Sometimes some of my uncles will be able to take 5 plates home. Or more. But the plethora was normal. It was normal. And, it was fresh lemonade. It was fresh tea. It was even, I don't know if you could say fresh Kool-Aid. And as I'm telling him, he said, you need to go back to that. Your body does not respond to artificial foods, processed foods, or fast food. The chemicals in them, your body rejects them. You everything on you is old school, but it's new. And even as she's saying all of these things, trust me, in my mind, I was deciphering it. I was trying to, figure it out, And I'm like, old but new, And then it dawned on me other things, and I didn't realize how much I was doing to help myself out. It was that I checked out my blood type, and I knew that my blood type, you couldn't really keep diseases. Okay? Then another thing I checked out was, your stomach lining regrows itself every 3 days. So I would say there's no need for me to even really be sick. Because if I'm sick longer than 3 days, that means it's something that's in there, ain't supposed to be there, it ain't came out yet, and food can rot inside your body type shit. So it's let me flush this on out. Let me get this shit on out there. But it helped with the healing process. But basically it's all my organs and stuff, they found a home together. And he didn't want to fuck with it. He was like, keep doing it. You good. He just told me to put some more fiber in my diet just in case. Because at one point they thought that they would have to literally cut through my bowels and cut them down. But they were able to kind of pull the fibers off gently to where I could keep all of my lining of my bowels. And believe it or not, that's a good thing. Okay? And that was a key, that the information from him. All right? And it was covert too. He's asking me these questions. And the way he's asking, he's like, what are you doing? He's like, what is it like? On that. And I'm like, all right, I didn't think it was as serious, meaning what he was asking me at the time, until I kept thinking about it, because at some point I was worried. It was damn, it's it does that. But I can also tell when my bowels were too full and I need to detox and flush them out, and I would do that. And I was really, really researching a lot of stuff to kind of unravel them on their own. And they have them separate on their own. But some of that was magic too, because a lot of it is undoing itself now. And I could tell the difference. So it's somebody that was attached to me had a lot of stomach issues. It's things like that I start to figure out. If I'm hurting too much on my kidneys or my heart or my nervous system, my brain, it's somebody else that's attached to me that's going through those things, okay? And even if I don't know who you are, but I know it's happening to my body, I still need to take an interest in fixing whatever the heck is going on with my body. All right. But in turn, when I was fixing myself, I was fixing these other people that were attached to my energy too. That's a big part of being a healer. So even when you don't think that you're a healer, but healing yourself, it does heal others if they are attached to you. But they cannot be attached to you on some malicious shit. Everybody got to have some genuine attachments to you. And it doesn't have to be a trauma bond, some emotional, some crazy, no. It can just be on some fun-loving, hey, how you doing? Because everybody got to grow. But I just put the other nugget in just so you'll know, like, if you do have something and then you're able to take something like, herbs or juices and whatever, and then whatever those ailments go away, or you get one of these natural healing books and things on you start to go away, and look at it like, okay, you heal some of your ancestors. And some of them might be attached to you from across the world. That's how the hell shit was going on with me. So, look at things like that. So that was from that doctor. And he was so amazed, And he was the one I would go to because he was doing that type of work. I had different doctors for different shit because I was going to like 5 or 6, probably more, doctors at the time. And that man was great. I could have a 2 o'clock appointment, and if I overslept, and let's say I woke up, one time I woke up like 5:30. His office closed at like 6. And I called and I was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, I was trying to and he was like, oh, it's no problem. And I was like, well, can I reschedule? And he said, no, you can just come on in. I've been waiting on you. And I was like, for real? He said, yeah, if you got a way you can make it, come on. That's all right. So I came. And his staff was still there. And they did everything. So I was like, oh, wow. It was like his bedside manner was the best out of a lot of different doctors that I had. And I was thankful for it, And then there's another, like, doctor situation. And this one it had its profound moments, okay? So, I had my cycle, and I got through my cycle, and it was heavy with fibroids, okay? I don't have fibroids now, though, but it was heavy with fibroids. And I'm like, all right, cool, got through my period. That's kind of like the worst time for myself, whatever. 3 days later, I'm bleeding again. And I'm like, oh, shit, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? Because that had never happened before. Like, when it's over, it's over. Like, it has never, like, started back up. So I go to the hospital, and just like all the time, if it's an emergency, everyone will look at me like they don't see no emergency on me. And they'll take everybody else, and I'll be the last one. And I can get upset about it and everything. Thank God I do know my body. And I do know, like, if I'm really in some real danger with myself. Because I would be at that, like, register on some shit like, come on. Let's go type thing. And very vocal. But I'm like the last one that they take. Is about 4 people in front of me. And I knew my situation was more dire than theirs. Let me tell you what they do. They take me back there. They poke around. They do something. All right. It's before they get you a bed and all that. Whatever the shit that they do. And They came back running with some their results, right? Like running. And they was like, I see the old shit face. Okay. And they were like, well, Miss Dilworth, how'd you get here? I said, I drove. They was like, you drove what? I said, my car. He said, you drove here? There was a doctor. I said, yeah. He said, are you aware of the condition that you're in? I said, my cycles came back on. I said, I have fibroids, and I've had fibroids in the past, and I'm hoping I'm not, going through this again type thing. And, yeah, that's what I got going on. He said, your hemoglobin is at a 5.9, I think he said at that time. And I was like, okay. He said, there's no way you should be smiling and talking to me. There's no way you should be standing on your feet. There's no way that you're not pale, that you're not passing out, that you're not, he just listed all these things. I said, I've learned to roll with what I had going on because I dealt with it for so long, And I was like, well, if it ain't real serious, I want to get the fuck up out of here. He said, whoa, no, you got to stay. I was like, stay for what? He said, do you know a woman's hemoglobin is supposed to be at like a 7.5 and you're at a 5.9? I was like, oh, that ain't that bad. That's a few points under. I done had lower than that before. His eyes was like, what? And I was like, yeah. I said, because I could tell by how I feel. I said, I still would work in something like this. The only thing that got me was my period that came back on. He said, you would be doing what? I said, yeah. I said, if it wasn't, I wasn't in a lot of pain. I was just nervous as fuck because it never comes back on. But he was telling me I need to stay. And I did not want to. Because the last time I was in the hospital at that time, my experience was not good at all. And I had vowed to myself that I was going to keep myself so healthy that I would never have to go back into the hospital. And I was pretty fucking good. It was like 4 or 5 years had went by before I ended up in that hospital that day. Okay? And I was not, I wasn't looking forward to that stay. That wasn't on my mind or my agenda or nothing. He told me, he said, if you leave out of this hospital, we're not responsible for what will happen to you. Because this is what's supposed to happen to you. Like, you could faint. You could die. You're not supposed to be driving. You're not supposed to be doing this. You're not supposed to be doing it. And I was like, damn, I got to go to work. And he was like, no. He made me call my parents just so I wouldn't leave. I called them. They told me to stay. And now I'm glad I did. Because you know what? When your hemoglobin is under 7.5, you have to have a blood transfusion. Right? I've been dealt a bad hand with these blood transfusions. And so I was on top of my shit in a different way that he has never seen a patient. And I was like, yo, I done been through this shit before. And I know how motherfuckers are fuck up and how they think I don't know. That's when I could tell if you ain't clean the blood all the way good and shit like that. Because certain things will start fucking up on my body. And then that's what I got to take some medicine for. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, but if you really clean the antigens out the blood, then I won't have none of these problems, you know. And he was like, you know about answer? I said, yeah, I done had this done. At this time, I think it was like about 6 times, you know. And he was like, hey, your blood is kind of like the kind that everyone kind of needs, and we need to get on it. We need to get it. And basically, he didn't want nothing to happen to me. It's all right. But you know, I went in there in the morning, and I hadn't ate. And I couldn't eat. Because they were going to do, like, the removing of those fibroids because they were still growing in size. And then I would have to do my blood transfusions. And I was like, oh boy, all right. And I'm not being ungrateful at all, you know. I was just like, damn, it's another, like, fucking setback on some shit. But you know what I mean? So, but they couldn't do the surgeries without the blood. You know, they started looking for my blood. They couldn't find it. Not for a few hours. Not for 18 hours. Not for 24 hours. Not for 48 hours. They looked all through North Carolina. And they had to find it in South Carolina. Now that was scary. I've never had it to where they couldn't find my blood. Or, you know. And I was like, oh, Lord, you know. They did let me eat because I was waiting. But that was scary. I had to get flown to total 3 hospitals. You know, even though that one was a good hospital, I needed to get flown to where the blood was, and then I needed to get flown to the hospital where, like, the specialty of my fibroids was. It was a whole production, kind of. And I'm thankful for it. But that doctor couldn't believe shit. Let me tell you what this dude does. After, like, when he's looking for the blood, they're looking. And they're not finding it yet. But he decides to go back to the footage to see if my ass really drove here. And he seen my car pull up. Because I was selling insurance. So I got all this fucking writing. I had all over my car. And he seen me pull up and come on in. He's like, yo, you really walked. You really, not walked, but you really drove here. I'm like, yeah. And then, let me tell you what they put on my bed. They put that pad, you know, and so, you know, if you want to get off the bed and you can't, and like start buzzing and shit. And I was like, what the fuck? I just want to go to the bathroom. He's like, you ain't supposed to be standing up. I was like, he's like, here go this bedpan. I'm like, what? No, I want to walk to the bathroom. But because my hemoglobin was so low, he was scared. And he was looking at me just thinking. He was like, all right, she's going to lose some of this energy. She's going to either slip and fall or faint. Or she's going to, it was like he was anticipating. Just based on looking at my labs. And I said, no, I don't act like that. That doesn't happen to me. The most I would ever do is pass out. And he was like, and that's not alarming to you? I said, well, I just make sure I pass out in a place where I don't hit my head or nothing. But or on a bed, and then I let it take me to Never Never Land. If I wake back up, great, But it's called it was like a blackout type thing. And I said, I don't get that often, And at that time, I didn't. Even though it was like the 6th or 7th blood transfusion, I didn't. I ain't really started getting that shit till a couple of years ago on that 9th and that 10th one, because I realized what people were doing was all that magic and they sucking your energy, And it's like some weird fucking way they're able to siphon your blood, because that's what that is. And then, so you're not anemic by some real shit. You're anemic by what motherfuckers want from your insides. And through this magic, they're able to suck that shit out your ass. The in-betweens, I'm sure other people can explain to you, but I can't. But I know they're linked together. All right? But he was in shock a lot of times. I ain't know what to say. I was just there being me. He saw me eating and everything. And he was scared to take the little bed pad thing off of there. That shit kept beeping. I was like, oh my God. I couldn't sneak nothing. I was like, man, this shit is crazy. But second day, he got rid of it. He was like, all right, okay. He was like, you a different kind of case. And I'm like, I guess. I don't know. I guess. But every doctor, a lot of different doctors would look at my labs, see one thing from my body, they see something different all the time. And they see the evolution, they see the change, and they see the progress, and they see what I can handle versus what statistically they have documented on paper from other people and what they seen in other folks. But even if I'm going through these down times, I was always still trying to flush out my blood, detox my bowels or my urine, flush out the toxins of my brain and the fat in my brain, and all to eventually getting back to this belly and getting it off of me, because I only had it for about 7 to 8 years from when everything started healing together. But now that a lot of things are breaking, it's breaking too. Breaking back into its original places. And it was like literally some form of protective barrier inside my body. It was like designed not to falter kind of way. Like, what these doctors ain't saying is, I'm a miracle. I'm a miracle in every which way possible. I think I said it one time where another doctor looked in my labs and he was so confused. And he was like, I'm surprised you don't have diabetes or cancer by now, because based upon these results right here, that's what's supposed to be happening. But he said, and then when we redid your labs and you come back, that ain't what we seeing. Okay? And these are 3 different times, 3 different doctors, 3 different, doctor's office, hospital, and another Or you can do surgery in the office, but it's in a different section. Like that. And there's a few other times with doctors, but it was always something that would shock them. And when the other ones come back, I'll tell y'all about them too. But when people tell you things about yourself, keep it in the forefront of your brain. Like, I made it through that, or I did something right for myself. And then write down what you did to help yourself out. And always do that to help yourself out. Don't forget that that is a guide for you. And it's about you. And you have to take that information serious too. Because it is your genetic makeup. Okay? That isn't the same as someone else's. And it doesn't have to necessarily be something medical. All right? Anything profound that someone says to you about yourself. You know, whether it's your skin, whether it's how you lose, weight so fast, whether it's how you are so flexible, or, dang, how you keep your teeth so white. I don't know how. Mine ain't as white as y'all's be looking on TV and stuff. But it's like where your strength comes from. What the vitamins will do to your hair or your skin or anything. Any self-care routine that is visible for other people, and they see the like that visual representation of a timeline being like diminished, or non-existent. And they're wondering, like, how, Sway? It can't just be the vegetables. It can't just be the lemonade. It can't just be her eating habits. It has to be something more. And the more I did, I cared for my insides. And I also cared for my insides in another way. And this is the last thing I'm going to talk about before I get off of here. But Dick Gregory taught me a whole lot of stuff. I would watch him because I would hear that laughter can cure diseases. And so I said, well, let me watch some comedy. Even if I gotta sit here, I gotta heal, I gotta get back on my feet. It's gonna take a while. And some surgeries, I couldn't laugh because I feel like some shit about to just like my insides will fall out. I had to wait, but when the waiting period is over, I'm ready to chuckle. But this is when I knew that comedians were smart. That's an untapped wit that has lessons in it. In which he was the man of comedy that never had the same joke that he would tell each night when he would do comedy. It was always something different. But he said he did an experiment on himself. He checked himself into a hospital. And he wanted to see what comedy would do or laughter would do, and then drinking water would do, and so many other things. He healed a lot of himself. But instead of someone else doing the experiment on him, he did the experiment on him. And I said, I'm going to do the experiments on myself. So even if it was a herbal remedy I never tried before or I heard about, I would try it. I would do it. And I would see how my body would respond. And I would see, how good it would work. And I would keep it in the routine, and I would do it all the time. And eventually it was like, okay, I was getting back to my 6-pack, my 8-pack, no problem. It was like I was doing like some rapid improvement. Now in these past about 5 years, nobody wanted me to do no rapid improvement. It was like spell work done around the motherfucking clock, 24/7. You know, my bounce back was real fast. And motherfuckers was always fucking with my weight. Like, the women, they was thinking, the weight on me will make me ugly, so a man wouldn't want me and shit like that. And I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. Anywho, I made sure to take care of whatever ailed me, whatever made me uncomfortable, whatever just didn't register in a loving feeling in the inside. But then there's another thing I did outside of Dick Gregory. There's this Asian guy, Soto or Solo, I don't know. But he's the rice man. You know how when you talk good to the rice, it stays looking like white rice. Talk bad to the rice starts to, die or grow mold. And then there's an in-between on like how your feelings are or whatever. And he had like a whole special on it. I knew that was a transfer of energy, number one. And he was saying how you talk to yourself determines how yourself is going to be. And you know, at one point I laid my hands all over my belly and my organs, and I talked so good to them, like, hey, how you doing? How's things going? You know, do you need some help moving around in there? And I was like, do you want me to shake it up a little bit? And I might shake my belly. Okay? I would really do this. Oh, shit. I forgot. I would really shake my damn belly, okay? Or I got the little fupa pooch that's down there, and it's like some dead surgery fat that I'm like, this is some fucking pregnancy fat or something. This shit don't go no fucking where. It don't matter what I'm doing. Like, this don't have no bounce back. It's just there. And I said, I know there's a way. And I worked on things to get that surgery fat from being hard to soft. Okay? But it was due to insides changing from remedies, juicing, the intake of the foods that I would put in my body, and the intake of what I would say to my body and to myself. And then the intake of the information that I was like making sure to absorb, like how to flush out different parts of my body the proper way, or how to speak in a loving manner to the point where I can capture love or capture its essence, and it would feel me to the point where, yes, when I would talk to my organs would respond. And at certain points, I had a shitload of gas. And it's like, when I would say my organs would respond, I want you to understand that when you want to know if you're spiritually on the right track, you have to connect it to your health. This is why health is wealth. You have to connect it to your health. Okay? And so I would ask for signs like, hey, help me move this gas through. All right? Now, a sign might be, well, maybe you need to go and buy some Gas X, or maybe you need some Pepto-Bismol, or maybe you need to cut out these nachos, or different stuff like that, because certain things are harder on the stomach that you can eat, you know. And I listened and I researched, even food. What's good food for the bloodstream? What's good food for your kidneys? What's good food for your eyesight? What's good food for? And I would incorporate it in ways of things that I would like to eat. So I knew cabbage would get rid of the fat in your brain, you know. And I like cabbage. So I said, oh, I love it in coleslaw. I'm going to fix some coleslaw. Then I liked fried cabbage, so I would do that. And then I loved it in egg rolls, so I would do that. And I would rotate, and it was like I had my favorites of that. That's what I am making sure to say. It's kind of like, even in your vegetable game, I made sure my vegetables were like favorite up like I would like my burgers, you know, or my chicken or something like that. But anywho, all those things worked for me. And I ain't gonna say I don't have energy to keep going on this thing, but it is very late. It's like 2 a.m. And I was ready to crash out at like 11, but I was waiting to bring my birthday in. And then I was waiting to, when this came on my brain, I said, damn, let me talk about it. And I've been talking for about an hour, but I'm about to go ahead and slip into good old fashioned sleep. And I guess that's what I need to do, is to talk about that, to get that off into the atmosphere. Because I know that those are good things that will help other people. And I'm just making sure I continue on the helping other people journey. I'm tired. Love y'all, folks. I'm out of here.